war was won against the Omnics, but at great cost as it irradiated the land, with islands of towering Omnic wreckage left in the wake of the war. These giant islands soon became spoils and were used by the survivors to create cities. Eventually, a capital was made. This would soon be known as Junkertown. Over time, the reach of the Junkers grew, and in the Junker King's greed, another city was forged, its location known only to his most loyal of followers, and the global organizations that supported him in secret. Hidden deep in the waste where the dust storms were most dangerous was an island of wreckage known as the Junk Heap. When the Junker King was banished, he made his way here. He began to rally outside help from many of the world's most evil of organizations, for it was a place that one could obtain anything for the right price. The Junker King's needs was revenge, as he sought together a council of the underworld heads of Junk Heap. By the end of the council, a bounty was made for a woman named Odessa Stone, and a bounty hunter was selected for the task. A vicious wasteland inhabitant, notorious for his skills at catching prey. He went by the codename Welcome to the hero reveal of Wallaby, a deadly Australian bounty hunter from the secret underground Junker city known as Junk Heap. Wallaby is a tank hero and has 400 health in open queue and 550 health in roll queue. First up, Wallaby has a passive ability called Speed Barrier. For every 5 meters traveled while using movement abilities, Wallaby gains shield health. For every 5 meters traveled, he gains 50 shield health that will decay over a 5-second period. The maximum shield health Wallaby can attain from this passive is capped at 300 total shield health, meaning that the more Wallaby uses his movements, the stronger and more sturdier a tank he will become. Wallaby's left click and basic attack is called Shrapnel Barrels. Wallaby shoots large chunks of junk at close range that has the ability to explode when it hits a target enemy hero, wall, or even object, scattering dangerous shrapnel outward and within a small 4-meter range that can damage nearby enemies. A shorter range weapon that reaches a maximum of 12 meters before it will arch downward and explode on whatever area it hits. Max ammunition for Shrapnel Barrels is 5 before Wallaby must reload his weapon. He has a reload time of 1.5 seconds. Wallaby's right click ability is called Spring Force. Wallaby is capable of compressing his robotic legs and then charging forward at great speeds in the direction of aim via the player. This means that if you are aiming upward, Wallaby will shoot upward, or likewise straight ahead if you are aiming that way. At quick instantaneous use, Wallaby gains a base distance travel of 6 meters if unobstructed. Spring Force can be charged for a maximum of 2 seconds before it will auto-unleash him in the direction he is aiming in. For each second charged, Wallaby will gain an additional 12 meters of potential travel, meaning that at a full charge, Wallaby can travel up to a total of 30 meters for each use of his Spring Force at full power. Now you may be thinking that's quite a lot, but there is a reason for that, which I'll explain shortly. Wallaby manages to hit enemies, he will deal damage and plow through them, knocking them upward as he does so, similar in fashion to how Morga's Overrun ability works. If Wallaby manages to collide with an object or wall, he will gain the ability to ricochet and change his trajectory based on the angle he hit that object or wall at one time, meaning that this will require some geometry skills to get this hero right and at his most deadliest. As a slight nerf, ricocheting will not reset his max distance traveled, and it will still count as the same distance run, capping at a total of 30 meters. During Spring Force, Wallaby is susceptible to being stunned, knocked knocked down, mobility locked, slept, or even hacked via enemy abilities, which will stop his run and begin the cooldown. There is an added balance at a maximum charge, Wallaby gaining the unstoppable effect as he dashes forward. In the case of other charge abilities colliding as Reinhardt, Morga, or even Doomfist for examples, a collision will occur and cancel out Spring Force on hit, leaving both tanks knocked back and downed. As a nerf to Spring Force, Wallaby cannot cancel his run once he has launched himself, and will continue to travel in a direct line until he ricochets or is stopped via enemy abilities, meaning that he cannot turn like Reinhardt can, and if you aim this ability too close to the edge, you may just find yourself flying over it until your demise. Cooldown for Spring Force is 6 seconds. This may need to be adjusted with further testing. Wallaby's E ability is called Spring Trap. By pushing the E button, you can set a spring trap at a target location. This trap is triggered via enemies walking over it, though this trap is quite tricky to spot, with its cover being an unsuspecting sheet of metal that in some maps could look like any other part of the ground. When triggered, this trap springs unsuspecting enemies up and back from the location. Initially, it will deal no damage, but if the enemy target manages to collide with an object, wall, or other enemy heroes, they will take collide damage. Also, if the enemy happens to hit another enemy hero, that hero will also take damage, but not as much as the original affected hero does. Only one spring trap may be set and active at a time, and if a new trap is set, the old one is destroyed. Cooldown for Spring Trap is 10 seconds. Wallaby's left shift ability is called Latch. By pushing left shift, Wallaby is able to latch at his current location, digging in his giant mechanical arm. Latch allows Wallaby to immediately halt his movement and remain in the position that he used it in for as long as the left shift button is held, or until the max latch time of 5 seconds is met. If he's near a wall, Wallaby will automatically attach to the wall and dig his claw in, meaning that if Wallaby spring forces himself up a wall, he can use Latch at the right moment before touching the wall to attach himself to that wall without flying off in a new direction because of the ricochet effect. While latched, Wallaby does take 40% reduced damage from enemy attacks, and during this time, he can also still attack with his basic attacks, though he cannot move until the ability is let go. As an added bonus, Latch will reduce his Spring Force ability cooldown time by 25% while he remains latched, meaning that Latch can be utilized as a great controller for the Spring Force ability to reset your aim and direction of travel, or just to halt yourself from going too far over the edge in those tight and tricky situations. Cooldown for Latch is 12 seconds. Wallaby's ultimate ability is called Junk Barricade. Wallaby is able to create a large wall of junk at a target location from his weapon that will provide temporary cover for allies and block any incoming enemy attacks. The barricade, when attacked, will begin to mulch shrapnel, just like Wallaby's basic attack explosion effect, and if it manages to hit nearby enemies as it flies about, they will take damage from the sharp shards of falling junk and metals. Your team can attack the barricade of junk also to produce further shrapnel, and like you, they will not reduce the wall's health when doing this. If enemies attack the wall, however, shrapnel will also be produced, but the wall will lose health, and if attacked enough, it can be destroyed. Junk Barricade has a total of 3,000 health, and it will be 4 meters tall with a maximum width of 14 meters. Junk Barricade can also be used in tandem with Wallaby's Spring Force ability, giving him a potential ricochet surface to spring off of. When doing so, he can further trigger the shrapnel effect, and it will trail him for a further 3 seconds after he leaves the barricade, leaving shards of shrapnel following in his trail that can further damage enemies outside of the wall's initial defensive radius. And it will be active for a total of 8 seconds before fading automatically. And now guys, for the new season. This new season will be titled Wasteland, and it will follow the banishment of the exiled Junker King and his secret exploits into the creation of the underworld city known as Junk Heap, and his plans for revenge against Junkertown and their queen. This season there will be a new map, a new arcade mode, a new feature, and also some new skins. First up, we have a new map. This new map will be a new push map, and it will be titled Junk Heap. Like the origin story for Wallaby, Junk Heap is a massive underground city built amongst the wreckage of the Omnic War. The city below will be lit via lanterns and lights as the city expands into a vast metropolis of underground shuttles and black market streets, with a hint of inspiration from steampunk, junker, and the Victorian era, to where the shadiest of characters that do not want to be seen come from all over the world for all sorts of nefarious purposes to acquire all sorts of illegal items. There is also a presence of many Junker factions here that are not loyal to Junkertown. Omnics will mostly be used as slaves here due to the resentment that Australians have against Omnics. Some cool details to add to the map could also be posters showing Omnics for sale as slaves, and also the bounty against Odessa Stone, the Junker Queen. Next up guys, we have the new arcade mode, and it will be titled Chaos Shuffle. This new mode will see a 5-round mode, where the team with the first to 3 wins the match. This is a fun new take on utilizing heroes, but with different abilities like they did with the recent mutations, and even Mirror Watch before that again. For Chaos Shuffle, at the beginning of each round, your chosen hero will have all his abilities lined up like cards, similar to here in the example, to where each round you will be able to roll the cards once each, to where it will randomly shuffle the abilities with other heroes of that same hotkey. As an example, the E abilities can only be shuffled with E abilities, left shift abilities with left shift, and ultimate abilities with other ultimate abilities. Just a note, basic attacks do remain the same and they cannot be swapped. This is also the same with passives. Once a hero has been picked, you may not be able to swap them out unless you're a new player entering mid-game. Instead of his Swift Strike left shift ability, I've shuffled it and it has now been swapped with D.Va's left shift boosters ability, meaning that Genji can now use boosters in-game, gaining the effects and allowing him to essentially fly around the map as D.Va does and knock through enemies. Another funny combo could be Bastion losing his reconfigure form but gaining Wrecking Ball's left shift roll, or even gaining, say, Mercy's resurrection ability just to become more of a backline healer and revive your fallen teammates. A scary combo could be Widow managing to swap out her grappling hook left shift for Ana's sleeper, meaning that she'll be able to line up the perfect shot each time. The rolls and combos for this mode can be endless, and I predict it would be a lot of fun. Just for a balance, this mode can get you stuck in some cases, like with abilities such as Lucio, to where his kit revolves around his sound-based abilities. So for this mode, unfortunately, Lucio will be unavailable. If you manage to get a D.Va ultimate while not being D.Va, you'll be able to launch a copy of yourself instead that will explode instead of the mech, and this will act more as a bomb than anything else. For Reese's Javelin spin, for other heroes, it will just be them spinning their weapons around to block incoming projectiles. If a player manages to get Bastion's reconfigure mode, it will instead increase that player's attack speed and output to a similar mode to that of Bastion's tank mode. Hanzo's Sonic Arrow, it will convert to whatever the player has for a weapon, and it will launch on the player's next attack. For tricky abilities such as Junkrat's Concussive Mine, instead of activating it with a right click, just in case that hero already has a right click ability, it will instead be a centered trigger mine trap. I'd also like to note, if you get an ability roll in that normally combos with other hero abilities, then you may find yourself stuck with a bad roll until the next round. That should hopefully cover most of the tricky abilities, but if you guys can think of any that I missed, let me know in the comments. Next up, we have a unique and interesting idea, and perhaps a drawback to Overwatch 1, that I thought would be really refreshing for the Blizzard devs to add to the game, just for players that don't like to spend heaps of cash for skins. And this is the skin loot chest. At levels 39 and 79 of each season's battle pass, players will now gain access to what I'm calling the skin loot chest. What this will be is a randomized character skin chest with one skin inside that you don't already own, meaning that this will encourage new players to buy the battle pass, further increasing Blizzard sales, but also allowing players to throw in their luck with a potential skin that they don't already have and don't want to potentially pay ridiculously large amounts of money to obtain. Keep in mind, this will not include mythic skins, and they will remain in the shop as is. In the odd case to where a player already has every single skin available, they will instead be rewarded with coins to spend at their leisure. The level 39 chest has a certain chance roll for each type of skin, with commons being a 45% chance, rare being 35%, epics being 15%, and legendary skins being 5%. Though at the level 79 skin loot chest, the chance of getting a rarer skin will be increased by quite a lot. Common skins will move down to a 20% chance, rare becoming 40%, epics going up to 25%, and legendaries going up to a 15% chance. And lastly guys, the new skins for the season, and as mentioned, the theme this season will be steampunk. First up, we have Detective Zenyatta. I'm really starting to like doing Zen skins, as it always gives me a cool way at changing his orbs into new and fun ideas. Being a detective, his light bulbs represent his ideas, and yes, the light bulbs do flicker on and off via emotes, and when he attacks or uses abilities as an added feature. For this skin, I went with a very business-like Zen outfit, but I also gave him that Victorian steampunk vibe, with his skin coloring to a bronze copper, his eye monocle, and I added a cute little mustache, as well as giving him a suit and smoke popper to add to the theme. His tie is of a clockwork pattern, and let's not forget his hat, which really ties this all together to the theme. Next up, we have a new Venture skin. For this skin, I stuck to the black, gold, and green coloring, with Venture's hair parting with different colors to add to that edgy vibe that I feel Venture would portray here. They have a steam-powered backpack and axe, as well as steampunk goggles, a lantern for that deep excavation crop top as well, and a steampunk style of tattoos up their arms, and a more Victorian style gloves and boots to what Venture normally has in the lower half. And next up guys, we have Aeronaut Farah. This Farah skin was inspired by a steampunk aeronaut, which is basically a pilot, and I thought giving her more of a fabric styled mesh wing and gold around her form really went well with the theme here. I even went and added a corset for her midsection just to break up the heavy armor, and I gave her new arms with different gadgets and steam powered tech, as well as goggles and a top hat to finish it off. This will be what she has instead for a helmet. I hope you enjoyed this season and this hero concept. As always guys, thank you for watching the hero reveal of Wallaby.